There we go. Okay. Just want to say thanks for everybody coming out tonight. And I would like to introduce Joanne from the Railroad Retirement Board, and she's going to give us a presentation on options for retirement and who to call, things like that when we get ready to retire. She has some informational packets that she'll pass out or that you can pick up before you go home. And the only other business that we have is we have to clean all these tables back away before we leave tonight. So don't everybody run through the door when we're done. All right? Thank you guys, and here's Joanne.
My name is Joanne. I've been with the Railroad Retirement Board about 27 years. And things have changed over 27 years. We're getting much more high-tech, you can tell, more so than I am. But basically, railroad retirement replaces Social Security for railroad employees and their families. Our office, we're at 1299 Farnham Street in the Landmark building. We're not in federal space anymore. We're in private space on the second floor in Suite 200. Our telephone number, 877-772-5772. It's RRB 5 RRB. That's what the numbers are supposed to be. In our website, www.rrb.gov. This is a copy, or this is our homepage on the website, and there's lots of information on the website. The first one under beneficiaries and employees, you can go in and you can run your own estimates if you'd like to, and put in your own projection of earnings or how many years of service. You just need to request a PRC first. And to request a PRC in the box number 1 there, you would just click there, it asks you for some information, and then this PRC is mailed to you within 7 to 10 days. You need to activate that PRC within 30 days. And you activate it just by clicking in box number 2. Once you have that, when you get your PRC, you use it once and then you set up your own password. And so we can't help you get your password reset. If you need it reset, you would just put in your Social Security number and put forgot password. But there is lots of information on our website.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
Railroad Retirement pays benefits above and beyond what Social Security pays. We have full annuities at age 60 with 360 creditable months of railroad service, Tier 2 benefits, occupational disabilities. So for people that have at least 240 months of railroad service at any age, if they would become unable to work in their regular railroad occupation, they could be eligible for an occupational disability. The survivor benefits under railroad retirement are higher than they are under Social Security. We also pay unemployment benefits if you would be laid off, or sickness benefits if you would become unable to work under a doctor's care. There's also a supplemental annuity that's entirely employer funded. It maxes out at $43, and it starts at $23 with 25 years of service. But those benefits are all payable above and beyond what Social Security would pay. Tier 1, your Tier 1 tax replaces the Social Security tax. The Tier 1 tax is taxed at the same rate that Social Security is taxed at. And by voluntarily choosing to work in the railroad industry, you also pay in a Tier 2 tax. The minimum requirements to be vested under railroad retirement, you You need to have at least 60 months of service after 1995, or a total of 120 creditable months of service throughout your lifetime. And to be vested means that railroad retirement would have jurisdiction for paying your retirement benefits. I can tell it skipped one. The tier 1, yes, taxed at the same rate that people under Social Security are taxed at. This year, it's 6.2%, and it's taxable on earnings up to $118,500. The employer is also pays in the tier 1 tax. The maximum employee and employer tax is $7,347. The tier 2 is taxable on earnings up to $88,200. The employee this year is paying 4.9%, and the employer is paying 13.1%. The tier 2 is taxable up to $88,200. The employee maximum tax is $4,321.80. The maximum employer tax is $11,554.20. The tier 2 tax rate for the employee and the employer can change every year based on the amount of money in the trust funds. Medicare, the Medicare tax that used to be included as part of the tier 1 tax, but then they changed the rules and said there's no maximum earnings for Medicare. You pay the Medicare tax regardless of how much you earn. So they separated it from the tier 1. Some people refer to it as the tier 3. It's actually just a separate Medicare tax. There's no maximum earnings. Both the employer and employee pay 1.45%, and then there's an additional 0.9% if you earn in excess of $200,000. So, if you earn the maximum subject to the tier 1 and tier 2 tax, for an employee that would be $13,387.05, and the employer $20,619.45. If you earn above that $118,500, you're going to continue to pay the Medicare tax. The Railroad Retirement and Survivor Improvement Act of 2001 changed the way that the trust funds changed the way that the funds are invested. It used to be all the funds had to be invested in U.S. Treasury bonds, but this Railroad Retirement and Survivor Improvement Act set up a national investment trust, and it is managed by 3 people elected by labor, 3 people elected by management, and then the 7th member is elected from the 6 people on the board. There currently is a Union Pacific representative as one of those 7 trust officers. This Railroad Retirement and Survivor Improvement Act, it changed the way that the benefits were financed. And it's set up now so that if the funds, would fall low, the employer tax goes up. And it's secured the funds a lot more. People always worry, is there going to be enough money when I retire? Or they hear the same thing about Social Security, is the money going to be there? And they do these projections every year. And for like the last, 25 years, they do 3 assumptions, the most optimistic, the current, and then the pessimistic. And there's no financing problem seen until 2088, even under the most pessimistic circumstances. Yeah, and that's where the employee's tier 2 tax, the maximum taxable is at 4.9%. but the employers can gradually go up to 22.1%. When we calculate your Tier 1 retirement benefit, we pull your lifetime earnings record. We do not distinguish whether those earnings were under railroad retirement or Social Security. We simply pull your lifetime earnings record, index it by today's standards, and then the Tier 1 is based on your high 35 years of indexed earnings. The Tier 2 benefit, the formula we use, you take your average monthly compensation from your high 60 months of earnings, only looking at earnings that are subject to the Tier 2 tax, and then they multiply that by your years of railroad service and multiply that by 0.007. So there really isn't a maximum Tier 2 benefit because the multiplier is your years of service. And there were, some agreements that people were under, like the New York Dock agreement from way back, where people didn't necessarily want to sign up for retirement benefits until their spouse was eligible. So I know I get, someone with like 55 years of service because he continued to, obtain service under his agreement. And he just waited until his spouse was eligible to file. And this is an example of how additional years of service affects the amount of the Tier 2 benefit. A Tier 2 with 20 years of service, $942, and then with 40 years it shows $1,884, just from the multiplier being the years of railroad service. The Form BA6 that we issue once a year, usually it comes out in late May or early June. We're telling you what the railroad reported to us that your earnings were in your months of service. It's worth pulling out your W-2 when you get that and checking what they reported to us against the W-2. They are only required to fix that for up to 4 years. And frequently, if you're, say, off sick and you come back the last half, if there isn't a paycheck issued, a lot of times a service month isn't reported for that month. But you're entitled to a service month as long as you work at least one day in the month. And so it is important that you look at that and say, and try to get to us as soon as possible with that error. I had someone just this week, from 1978, he should have been credited with, these 4 months, and he's got the documentation. We can't make the railroad fix it if it's over 4 years, but he can go to the railroad himself and ask them to correct it. But if it's within the 4 years of when we provide that Form BA6, they have to correct it. This is what the Form BA6 looks like. It's on a big piece of paper with a lot of blue ink on it the last couple years. And it gives you, what they reported to us basically. The minimum requirement for a 60-30 age annuity, you have to have at least 360 months of railroad service. So it's not necessarily 30 years. A lot of railroaders don't work 12 months in a year. So it's actually 360 months, and it's a full benefit, no age reduction, and it's payable as early as age 60. If you wouldn't acquire that 360th month until you're like 63, you're still eligible for a full benefit once you've acquired those 360 months of service. The earliest date is payable is the month after your 60th birthday, unless you're born on the 1st or 2nd of the month. And the earliest you can sign up for your benefits is up to 90 days in advance of the annuity beginning date. To file for benefits, we're going to need a certified birth certificate for both yourself and your spouse. And if you have any minor or disabled children, we're going to need a certified marriage certificate, proof of military service, and proof of marriage. This is an example of a 60-30 annuity. It actually is kind of low from what I see in our office, where an employee with 30 years of service, the total benefit is about $3,500, and for a spouse, $1,700. It's not uncommon to see, a total benefit of $4,200, $4,300, and for a spouse benefit to be over $2,000. If your spouse is eligible for Social Security benefits, for example, if your spouse was older than you are, if she's eligible on her own earnings record, she wants to file, if she's not working, that at age 62, what happens, Social Security sends that benefit over to us, and we would pay the Social Security benefit only until the employee retired. And then, we would still calculate her benefit the same way. The Tier 1 is reduced by that Social Security benefit, but we're still paying that Social Security benefit. So anything they could pay, before her benefits with us could begin, it's to her advantage to file for them. Also, for a spouse, sometimes, especially with 60-30 people, a spouse is eligible for a full benefit at age 60 as long as the employee is retired. If she doesn't file at age 60, she's just forfeiting what we could pay with no gain for for delaying the benefit. It may be temporarily reduced if she's working and has substantial earnings. Also, if she works for the same pre-retirement employer, there's a temporary reduction. But those are just both temporary reductions. And anything that we can pay, she's just forfeiting if she doesn't file. But frequently, we'll have a spouse file at age 60, and then that would be too early for her to receive any Social Security benefits. She can file on the employee's record at age 60, and then maybe when she's full retirement age or age 70, she can file at Social Security. As long as the Social Security benefit is greater than the Tier 1 benefit, anything that they can pay above and beyond, is worth her filing. So she isn't necessarily locked in to either one. Just depending on her work record, you want to look and see if it's ever going to be to her advantage to file on her own record. There's a built-in reward in both Railroad Retirement and Social Security for those people who don't file on their earnings record at full retirement age. Full retirement age is gradually increasing from age 65 until age 67 based on your year of birth. And there is a chart that's coming up that will tell you how old you need to be. Anybody born 1960 or later has to be 67. If you're born before 1937, it's 65, but anything after that, it's gradually increasing. For the spouse to be eligible for a benefit, the employee needs to be retired from the railroad and receiving a benefit from us. You need to be married at least 1 year. You don't have to be working for the railroad during that 1 year. You just need to be married at least 1 year in order for the spouse to be eligible. And she needs to meet at least the minimum retirement age. Unless you have a minor or disabled child in your care, then she's payable at any age. For an employee with less than 360 months of service, they're eligible for a reduced benefit at age 62. The age reduction is gradually increasing from 20% to 30%, depending on the year that you're born. The reduction is a permanent reduction, but you're still eligible for a full benefit when you reach full retirement age, regardless. You know, we hear people say, no, they're never gonna get their 30-year service, so they're never gonna be eligible for a full benefit. And that just isn't correct. The full benefit is based on your age when you file for the benefit, unless you have 360 months of service. For other people, if you say we're 15 years under railroad retirement and 15 years under Social Security, sometimes it can be to your advantage to file, you know, at one agency, you know, at 62, and then wait to file at the other agency when you're full retirement age or at age 70. Because of that built-in reward for not filing on the record when you reach full retirement age, your benefit actually increases faster from full retirement age until age 70, even if you're not working, just because you haven't filed on the record. So, and this is the chart that tells you how old you need to be for us to consider you full retirement age. Anybody born between 43 and 54, it's age 66, and then it's gradually increasing in 2-month increments up to age 67 for anybody born 1960 or later. And then the age reduction for a spouse is gradually increasing from 25% to 35%, depending on her year of birth. And then this is an example of a reduced benefit for an employee with less than 360 months of service. If they filed at age 62, you can see that total age reduction of $825, it's a pretty steep reduction for accepting that benefit at age 62. Versus the full retirement age at $3,500. And again, to file for benefits, we need certified birth certificate, marriage certificate, proof of military service, and then if you don't have your military service, for example, you can go to www.archives.gov and obtain a certified copy of there. Specifically, we look for a Form D-214 that has all the information on one piece of paper. If you have several military documents that we can page, you know, the information together, we can use that. And then if you need help getting your birth certificate, www.cdc.gov NCHS. The only kind of insurance we handle is Medicare. And Medicare, the age for Medicare hasn't changed. It's still age 65, regardless of what year you're born in. So if you're still working for the railroad at age 65, you can come file for Medicare. Medicare has several parts. Part A is hospital insurance. It's free of charge. And so when you turn 65, if you file for that Part A, if you're hospitalized, it's just additional coverage. The Medicare Part B, they call this supplementary medical insurance. It costs $104.90 per month this year. If you're covered under an employer group health plan, you can delay taking the Medicare Part B at age 65, and you can pick it up at a later date with no penalty, as long as you've had coverage under an employer group health plan that's based on current work. But if you're going to have major surgery coming up, you might want to come in and file and pay the $104.90 rather than, you know, it just kind of depends on your circumstances. Yes, and these special rules, if you or your spouse are working at age 65 and have coverage under the employer group health plan, you just want to compare and make sure that it's worth signing up for the Part B, or if you should delay it. Railroad retirement benefits are not subject to state tax regardless of what state you live in. It's strictly federal income tax. Everything we pay you from age 60 until the month after your 62nd birthday is fully subject to federal income tax. Once you turn 62 plus 1 month, we will calculate a Social Security equivalent benefit for you. And if your work had been covered under Social Security rather than railroad retirement, what your benefit would be. It receives more favorable tax treatment. We treat it like it isn't taxable, but we're not the IRS, and many people still have to pay taxes on the Social Security equivalent benefit. It just depends on your total income. But especially if the spouse is still working, you want to make sure that you have enough taxes withheld. We always hear people that file at age 60, once they turn 62, they think they're getting this big raise. And they're not getting a raise, it's just we're simply withholding less in federal income tax. And then we see them the next year, then we come in and change the amount of taxes that they're having withheld. So if your taxes go way down, it's probably worth giving us a call. If it sounds too good to be true, it might be not true. And the IRS hasn't changed the threshold in the last 15 years on what you need to have for that Social Security equivalent benefit to be taxable. Currently, if you're married, filing jointly in your total income, including half of the Social Security equivalent benefit, if it exceeds $32,000, part of that benefit's going to be taxable. Well, 15 years ago, there weren't that many retirees that exceeded, $32,000. Now it's not uncommon, to see the employee's benefit alone exceeding $32,000. The current connection, the current connection it determines if you're eligible for an occupational disability, but the biggest thing the current connection affects is any survivor benefits that could be payable. When we make this decision, if you have a current connection, we look at a 30-month period, and 12 of those 30 months are your last 12 months of railroad service. So if you work for the railroad and then come in to file for benefits right away, you have a current connection. If you would leave the railroad industry and have more than 30 or more than 18 months before you're eligible for benefits with us, you have to be real careful on what you do outside of that 30-month period. So if you work 12 consecutive months for the railroad, effective immediately when you leave the railroad, you can work 18 months doing anything you want and still maintain a current connection. If you would work outside of that 18-month period, you're under Social Security, you can break your current connection. What that means is that your widow loses your Tier 2 benefits. So the more years of railroad service you have, the more you stand to lose if you break your current connection. If for us to find the 12 months of railroad service, if we've got to go back 15 months to find 12 credible months of service, then that 18 months is now down to 15 months because we look at the 30-month period. If we have to go back 20 months to find 12 months of railroad service, you're only going to have 10 months to work. If you leave the railroad industry and say do nothing for 6 months, then the 18 months that you were allowed to work is now down to 12. And if you do nothing for, say, the first year and a half and then get a job, you can break your current connection as long as you're not eligible for benefits with us yet. If you once you file with us for benefits, if you have a current connection, you cannot break it. It's only if you would, leave the railroad industry early and not be eligible for a benefit with us for more than 18 months. There are certain kinds of employment you can have that does not break a current connection. You can work self-employment in an unincorporated business will not break a current connection. You can work for certain U.S. government agencies and maintain your current connection. Or if you would be involuntarily separated from the railroad industry with at least 25 years of service and do not decline a job in the same class or craft, between when you leave and when your benefits with us begin, there's something called a deemed current connection that will still let your survivors be eligible for survivor benefits through the Railroad Retirement Board. But as long as the employee is alive, the spouse benefit is payable. It's only upon the employee's death that any survivor benefits would be linked to Social Security. Also, the $43 supplemental annuity is not payable if you break the current connection. Or if you break the current connection, even with 20 years of service, you're no longer eligible for an occupational disability. You would need to prove that you were totally and permanently disabled for work in all occupations. And it's just a lot harder requirement to meet than for an occupational disability. The advantages of having the supplemental or the current connection, supplemental annuities, occupational disabilities, and survivor benefits. I think we've gone over that if you became disabled, the minimum requirement for a disability would be 60 months of earnings after 1995 or a total of 120 months. If you are age 60 and have at least 120 credible months of railroad service and a current connection, you're eligible for an occupational disability. Otherwise, once you have acquired those 60 months of earnings after 1995 or a total of 120 throughout your lifetime, you're eligible for a total and permanent disability. The Railroad Retirement and Survivor Improvement Act of 2001 also changed the formula that we use to calculate survivor benefits. It used to be we would pay a widow 100% of the employee's Tier 1, 50% of his Tier 2, minus any age reduction for her becoming a widow before she reached full retirement age. The formula changed and we're now paying the employee or the widow 100% of the employee's Tier 1 and 100% of the employee's Tier 2, minus any age reduction. If she waited to receive benefits until she was full retirement age, it would be at 100% of the employee's Tier 1 and 100% of the employee's Tier 2. The age requirements for survivor benefits are a little bit different than they are for retirement benefits. Besides, a widow's benefit, there's also a widow's benefit is payable as early as age 60 or at age 50 if she was a disabled widow. We will pay a mother with a minor or disabled child of the employees in their care at any age. We will pay a minor child, actually we set up somebody else that we pay for the minor child until that child attains age 18, and then the federal government considers them adult at age 18, and we pay them direct at age 18 if they're still enrolled in high school. And for a child to meet the requirements for a survivor benefit, we need to prove that they're disabled prior to age 22. We usually try to develop for that when the employee files for benefits. it's a lot easier to find medical evidence, you know, prior to age 22 when your child is maybe only 30 or 35. If we wait until the employee dies to develop for that disabled child, then the medical evidence can be 40 or 50, 60 years old, and it's just a lot harder, you know, to prove that they were disabled before age 22. So if you have any disabled children, it's important, you know, to keep track of those school records, you know, any medical evidence that you have, and just hold on to it until you file for benefit. And these are the retirement age, again, is going up to age 67 for widows, but it's, you have to be born 1962 or later for it to be a full age 67. Otherwise, if you're born between 45 and 56, let's see, 40, yeah, you have to be 66, and then again, it's gradually increasing in 2 months until people born in 1962. And the increase again is 20.36%. It's not as steep for a survivor as it is for an employee. If the spouse is receiving a full benefit at age 60 and she became a widow before she reached full retirement age, even though she's receiving a full spouse benefit, she would still take a reduced widow's benefit if she was not full retirement age. So I usually tell the spouse it's to her advantage to keep the employee alive until she's at least full retirement age.
You're safe for a while.
Right. And it just, you know, we're open 9 a.m. to 3:30 Monday through Friday. If you have a question, call. It's much better to give us a call rather than listen to your coworker. I could tell you some of the things that I've heard, from coworkers and even if you would call us and the answer just didn't quite sound right, call again and see, if you get the same answer. Usually if you ask for a person's name, they know they're going to be held accountable for that information that they give. For divorced spouses, a divorced spouse, if you were married at least 10 years, a divorced spouse is entitled to 50% of the employee's Tier 1. It in no way reduces the employee's benefit, and you probably wouldn't even know if she filed on your record. The Tier 2 portion of the benefit is subject to division, and it's treated like property. And so if as part of your divorce decree, your ex-spouse is awarded part of your divisible benefits, it reduces your benefit by every dollar that she's awarded. So it's important if you get divorced, that you read that decree and know what you're giving up. Any portion of the Tier 2 that she would be entitled to, it's payable to her when it becomes payable to you. Or even if you're working, and I've had some employees that are never going to stop working, so she's not going to get anything. But they have changed those rules, and it becomes payable to her when you're both at least age 62, regardless if you're still working or not. The Tier 2, because it's treated like property, it doesn't matter if she gets remarried. It doesn't even matter unless you specify in your divorce decree that that's not payable if she would remarry. We're under court order to pay that to your former spouse. So yes, call us. We have a formal divorce letter that we will send out to you. It breaks down your Tier 1 and Tier 2. There's kind of a standard formula that we see a lot of people use where they're entitled to a portion of the benefit earned during the period of the marriage. if you're still working at age 65, or if you're still working at full retirement age. At full retirement age, there's no limit to the amount of money that you can earn and receive a benefit. So if you're working for the railroad, say at 66, and you're eligible or vested under Social Security, it's to your advantage to file for the Social Security benefit. Anything they can pay you while you're still working, you're that much better off. There's no negative effect to filing for that benefit if you're working when you're full retirement age. You would just be forfeiting it with no gain. If you would like to work after you retire, this year, for a person under full retirement age, they can earn up to $15,720 without it affecting the Tier 1 benefit. The Tier 2 benefit, if you would continue to work for the same pre-retirement non-railroad employer, so if you had a side job, and you wanted to keep working that side job, your Tier 2 benefit is going to be reduced by either half of your earnings or half of the Tier 2, whichever is less. So if you find that dream job that you want, it's probably to your advantage not to start working for them until after you retire. We look at all the employers that you had in the 12 months immediately prior to your benefits beginning when we determine who was your last pre-retirement employer. Again, if you're self-employed, unincorporated, it does not affect the Tier 2 benefit. Our website, again, there's lots of information on it. There's lots of information on the trust fund and how it's invested and who's on the board, and more information than you would ever want to know. There's also a link to our labor member's office, and he has a lot of good material on the link to him, a lot of educational materials. Every year we put on an informational conference for the union officials, and all that information is available on the website. Any questions? Yes.
I'm working past full retirement age, and we are I get 11 years of Social Security eligible, so we started collecting that. Okay, I understand that there's no negative effect, right, from doing that.
Right.
For mine or my wife. Also, I guess there's talk of Social Security going bankrupt, probably already is. But anyway, if that happens, let me back up just a little bit. When I do retire, whatever I get comes from it's payable from railroad retirement, and part of that comes from Social Security. So what happens if Social Security goes belly up? What is that going to affect our benefit?
No. Actually, once you file for railroad retirement, there's a provision that would allow you to waive your Social Security benefit. Railroad retirement benefits are not subject to state tax, and Social Security can be subject to state tax, just depends on what state you live in. So if it has a negative effect on your taxes, you can waive that benefit. And it just means that you're saying, don't pay me that benefit, and then we would pay you the full benefit.
Okay. So that's after we retire.
That's right, after you retire. And so I would say, if Social Security went under, we're probably all in trouble a little bit. But yes, there's a possibility you could waive that benefit in your full railroad retirement.
But can we waive it anyway?
You can waive it anyway. Well, you can waive it.
And still get the full amount from railroad retirement.
If there's a negative, if you can find that there's a negative effect on you for receiving the Social Security, and usually we see that with the taxes, but if you live in a state where it isn't taxable, you would need a good reason that they would waive it. And that's the presentation.
Anybody have any more questions?
I got one. My wife's, I'll retire at 60 with 30 years of service, but my wife is 4 years older than me. She's not eligible to retire and get railroad retirement before I get it, is she?
No, you have to be eligible for railroad, you have to be receiving railroad retirement in order for your spouse to receive a railroad retirement benefit. But again, if she's vested under Social Security on her record, she probably wants to file that at age 62 because you're still going to be under 60 when she turns 62, and she could receive that benefit for at least 2 years until her railroad retirement begins.
Anybody else? Joanne?